Welcome to the Friday Night Campfire Stories. My name is Rob and I will be your host for this evening. So I'm a short story writer. Every single month, on the first of every single month, I post a brand new story on Wattpad. And then here on YouTube, every single week we cover one chapter from one of my stories. And then on the first Friday of every single month, we start a brand new story. But for right now, we are on chapter 3 of my story called Sliced. For this story, I would usually give a little bit of a background of what happened in the first two chapters, but I will just say if you didn't watch the first two chapters, I would recommend going to watch that because me kind of explaining what happens, one, doesn't really give it justice for what the story is, and also it may seem a little bit confusing. But if you do watch the first two chapters, then you'll be caught up and ready to go, so I would recommend doing that before you watch this one. So, anyway, we are getting ready to go into chapter 3. The last chapter, we did almost lose our main character, but she's survived by the skin of her teeth. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This is chapter 3 of Sliced. Sliced, chapter 3. After the end of episode 2, the competitors went back to their hotel rooms. Katie and Patrick began debriefing everything that had just transpired. Driscoll had to have something to do with it, right? Asked Katie. He looked at me with the most menacing grin after they mentioned my dish being too salty. And after Angela got eliminated, he seemed so surprised. I know there wasn't too much salt in the dish. I've made it so many times. That's what I'm thinking. I didn't see him go around your station, but I know he was whispering something to Angela while you stepped away, said Patrick. It's so messed up. You're playing with somebody's life, said Katie, as she broke down once again. I was almost killed today. I should have been if it wasn't for her raw chicken. Patrick consoled Katie through the vents in their room. This became a nightly thing as they would go to their rooms after each round. It was the only way that Katie or Patrick could keep whatever sanity they had left. Over the next few rounds, Katie would not leave her station. Driscoll would constantly be looking at Katie out of the corner of his eye, waiting for his chance to slip in and get her eliminated once and for all. That time never came, though, as Katie would not let her guard down anymore. This did not stop Driscoll from getting rid of some of the other competitors. He would sabotage each opponent one by one each round. Katie and Patrick would try to stop it, but each time Driscoll was able to sabotage enough to get his target killed. The third person eliminated was Marco, who was eliminated after Driscoll spilled oil over his station, causing a fire on the set that was quickly put out, but too late for Marco to start over. He was sliced. Fourth was Hiroshi, who had his hand cut due to a knife being placed by Driscoll without Hiroshi noticing. He cut his hand too deep, and he had to receive medical attention. By the time they got the bleeding under control, the time had expired, and Hiroshi was murdered. Fifth was Isabella. After Driscoll did his salt trick once again, Katie and Patrick told Isabella, but once again it was too late for her to fix it, and her life was over. Aisha, Lee, and Tomas were next, all due to sabotages of Driscoll, all their lives being perished one by one. Each elimination harder than the next, knowing it didn't matter about the cooking. Driscoll was cheating. Katie tried to explain to the judges what was happening. They just shrugged it off. This game is life or death. We don't expect people to play fair, Cypress explained. It had seemed that Cypress had given up at this point too. I would even venture to say he was enjoying it, making it feel like he never talked to any of the producers or felt bad for the contestants losing their lives. When we made it down to the final four, Raj ended up getting eliminated. This death was the hardest yet. Raj was a family man, and now what was going to happen? His wife and kids were so proud of the dad who was chasing his dreams on his cooking show. Now he was going to perish. Can I speak to my wife and kids one more time, sir? Raj begged. I won't say anything about the show, I just want to hear them speak one final time. Chef Raj, you know we can't do that. You signed an NDA, and you telling them would break that, said Cypress. Don't you think me not showing up at home will be enough for them? He explained. Alright, he's making too much sense, and this is getting too sad. Guards, execute, ordered Cypress. Raj didn't run. He just fell to his knees and accepted his fate. Whoever wins, please let my family know I love them, cried out Chef Raj as he was brought to an end. That night, the hotel rooms were silent. Katie and Patrick didn't speak much, partially because they were so shattered by the events that had taken place tonight with Raj, as well as all the previous eliminations. Also partially due to the fact that the competition was down to just 3 competitors. Tomorrow's a big day, isn't it? Says Patrick, breaking the hours of silence. I don't want this anymore, cries out Katie. I just want this to be over. Katie had depressing thoughts go through her mind. She thought maybe she would just not show up tomorrow. If they kill her, it's probably how it was going to end up anyway. She didn't want her life to end, but she didn't have a whole lot of choices. She also didn't want Patrick to die either. He was all that she had in this abandoned hotel. She had developed feelings for this man on the other side of the wall. Knowing there was a 66% chance that one of them would die tomorrow made her feel nauseous. "We just need to make sure we beat Driscoll tomorrow," says Patrick. "But after that, it's just you and me," says Katie. They would not speak again for the rest of the night, even though both laid awake until the alarm sounded and they had to go downstairs for the second to last competition. The atmosphere in the grand medieval kitchen was silent as ever as the three remaining chefs took their place in the penultimate round of the sliced. Katie, Driscoll, and Patrick exchanged tense glances, knowing that only two would advance to the final round. Cyprix, exuding his usual charismatic energy, stepped forward to announce the challenge. "Chefs, congratulations on making it this far. For this round, you will have 1 hour to create a dessert that'll dazzle the judges. This is now your chance to showcase your creativity and finesse. Your time starts now." The chefs sprang into action. Katie had decided on a delicate raspberry souffle with white chocolate sauce, a dessert that combined her technical skills with an elegant presentation. She quickly began preparing her ingredients, her as perfect as ever before. This was a natural instinct for her. She was born to cook. Driscoll, ever the schemer, opted for a deconstructed tiramisu. As he worked, he kept a watchful eye on Katie and Patrick, looking for any opportunity to disrupt their progress. Meanwhile, Patrick had chosen to make a lemon meringue tart, a dessert that was always a crowd pleaser back in his family pub in Boston. As the clock ticked down, the intensity of the kitchen ramped up. Katie whisked her egg whites to stiff peaks, carefully folding them into her raspberry mixture before pouring them into the ramekins. She glanced over at Patrick, who seemed to be struggling with his tart crust. "How's it going, Patrick?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. Patrick shook his head, frustration etched across his face. "I can't get the crust to set properly. It keeps falling apart." "Hang in there," Katie encouraged. "You can do this." Katie began to worry about Patrick. Meanwhile, Driscoll smirked as he overheard their conversation. He casually sauntered over to Patrick's station, pretending he needed something from the nearby pantry. "Everything okay in here, Patrick?" he asked with a forced concern. Patrick didn't look up. "Just having some trouble with the crust." Driscoll eyed Patrick's ingredients, a devious plan forming in his mind. He waited for a moment when Patrick was distracted, then suddenly adjusted the temperature on Patrick's oven, hoping to throw off his baking time. Katie, focused on her souffle, noticed Driscoll's movement out of the corner of her eye. She quickly finished her preparation and placed her souffles in the oven. With a wary glance at Driscoll, she whispered to Patrick, "Double-check your oven temperature, just in case." Patrick looked puzzled, but did as she suggested, his eyes widening as he saw the altered setting. "Thanks, Katie," he murmured, readjusting his temperature and hoping it wasn't too late. Driscoll, realizing his plan had been busted, cursed under his breath and returned to his station. He decided to concentrate on his own dish, determined to outperform the competitors fairly if he couldn't sabotage them. With only 15 minutes left, the kitchen was a whirlwind of activity. Katie removed her souffle from the oven, breathing a sigh of relief as they rose perfectly. She began preparing the white chocolate sauce, her hands steady despite the high stakes. Patrick, still struggling, managed to salvage his tart crust, but found himself running out of time to perfect the meringue. His anxiety was palpable as he whipped the egg whites, trying to achieve the right consistency. "This isn't working," he muttered, panic creeping into his voice. Katie felt a pang of sympathy for her friend, but knew she had to stay focused. She plated her souffle, adding a dusting of powdered sugar and a drizzle of white chocolate sauce. As she stepped back to admire her work, she couldn't help but feel a mix of satisfaction and worry for Patrick. The final seconds ticked down, and the host's voice rang out. "Time's up. Step away from your station." The judges began their rounds, starting with Driscoll. They sampled his deconstructed tiramisu, nodding approvingly at his presentation and the balanced flavors. Next, they moved to Katie, who watched with scared breath as they tasted her raspberry souffle. "Exquisite," one judge remarked. "The souffle is light and airy, and the white chocolate sauce complements it beautifully." Finally, they arrived at Patrick's station. His lemon meringue tart looked rushed, and the judges took a bite. Their expression revealed the verdict. "The crust is undercooked, the meringue is weeping," one judge said gently. The host called the chefs to the front. "Chefs, you have all put forth an incredible effort, but only two of you can reach the final round. Katie, your souffle was outstanding. Driscoll, your tiramisu impressed the judges. Patrick, unfortunately, your tart fell short of the mark." Patrick's shoulders slumped, a look of resignation on his face. I gave it my best shot, he said quietly, with a tear starting to fall from his eye. Katie felt a pang of sadness for her friend, but also a surge of relief that she had made it through. She stepped forward to hug Patrick. You've got to put a stop to this. This is murder. I won't let you kill him. Katie, it's okay. It's no use. We've tried that for 2 weeks, and they're not stopping, said Patrick. We cannot run. We cannot hide. One day death will reach us all. It's messed up that they're speed running our lives, but there's nothing we can do now. It's a cooking show after all. I'm just the next voted off. What do I do now? Asked Katie. Go win this thing, Patrick replied with a weak smile before the guards dropped their axes on Patrick, bringing his story to a sad ending. As Cypress congratulated Katie and Driscoll, the final 2 competitors, Katie couldn't help but stand there feeling ashamed, wishing she could be anywhere but here. She was now 1 meal away from achieving her goals and dreams, but all she had wished for now was going to be the epitome of who she was. Katie went back to her room in silence, wishing Patrick would just say something, but the room was quiet. Katie was now alone. That is the end of Chapter 3. I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, please click that like button, hit that subscribe button. We post a brand new chapter every single Friday. Next week is the finale. It will be Chapter 4 of Slice. And let me just say, I don't know if you guys are ready for what is about to take place. It is going to be a lot of fun next week. So I hope that you do join us next week. Also, you may have noticed if you're subscribed to the channel, we've been posting some new videos throughout the week. On Mondays, we post a video where we go through the history of haunted places, and then on Wednesdays we do a new true crime video every single week in a series I call Far From Fiction. So if you guys have any interest in that, please check that out on my channel as well. We will be back next week for the finale of Sliced, and as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your Friday evening here with me.